Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about how to default. I feel like I've made a video on this in the past, but it wasn't super good, and I feel that I have more information on it now, and I can explain it a little bit better. So let's go ahead and jump in game, and we're going to be on Mirage, pretty much the defaultest map, so you know, it makes sense that we'd make a video on how to default on the default map, basically, right? So the first things you got to do is recognize what kind of default you're trying to run. Now, in my opinion, there are two main types of defaults. Right? The first one, you're playing to try to maybe bait out some utility. If you want to learn how to bait out utility, you can watch this video. But you're trying to bait out some utility. Maybe you're just holding to see if the CTs are getting aggressive, right? Not doing anything super crazy. You're not trying to have anybody on your team die, and then probably at about a minute 45 seconds left in the round, you're going to come back together on a site, group up, and execute. All right, that's a passive default. Then you have another default. Well, the other type of default is where you're maybe trying to get more map control. Maybe you're trying to get a pick, a lot more room for individual plays, and then really working what site you're going to go to off of that pick or off of who's left alive. That's more of an aggressive default. So to run a passive default, all right, usually there's still a couple different setups even for like a passive default. There's like no one set way. So you can go completely spread out, which I do not recommend. That would be a guy sitting in ramp, a guy sitting in palace, all right? Guy sitting in mid back here, guy sitting underpass, maybe top underpass even, and then a guy sitting in apps, all right? With this setup, every single push that a CT could make is being held, all right? So, but it's also not being held at the same time, right? So the CTs cannot penetrate into T-spawn without going through one of those 5 lanes, and all 5 lanes are being held. So technically, you know, you are holding some stuff, but you're giving up a lot of map control. For example, right, you have a setup like that, a nice default, and then you have a CT push up to here, all right? Technically, he is yet to come in contact with the person that's defaulting over there, but he has a ton of map control, right? Same thing goes for somebody ramp. Guy could be here, right? Maybe even here, depending on how passive of a default it is. Palace guy could, you know, be pushed up really close. Apps guy could get himself lodged into this corner, right? And then underpass guy could just be sitting right here waiting for somebody, or even sitting over here waiting for somebody, right? So there's a lot of different options for CTs to get aggressive that won't actually interfere with the default. So holding that default and then running back, you will have no information for a lot of different CT pushes, especially on a map like Mirage, all right? So it's not super good. The other way to hold it, which I would more so recommend, is having one guy towards A, one guy towards B, and then 3 people mid, all right? So the A guy can sit up on here, all right? This is always a good angle to hold for pushes, right? You could also sit back in here, holding for a push coming out there, and then can also easily get a palace guy if he pushes. B guy can sit back here, hold both apps and underpass. I usually play this position, so it's hold underpass right at the start. If nothing happens, somebody flashes in, then you can hold apps, maybe throw some counter util or something, all right? Actually land the counter utility, you know what I'm saying? Oh, one more, 3rd time's the charm. And yep, alright, so like I was saying, throw some counter utility. Make sure that they can't push, especially if they smoke deep apps, but really just holding back here. And then you have 3 people towards mid. They don't all have to sit back here, right? Mid is probably the easiest spot for CTs to take control. So not even throwing a window smoke, right? So maybe not a window smoke, maybe just a top mid smoke. Alright, because window smoke, you kind of have to push up with that. Top mid smoke, you can kind of work around, you can peek into cat, right? You don't have to be exposed to connector. They don't really get too much info because they can't see you all that well. So, you know, something like that, and you're just holding back waiting for a push. This works well if your team is very good at drawing out utility. Like I said earlier, if you watch the video on how to bait out utility, I do explain all that, but the premise of it is you have to use some utility to bait out utility. So for example, if I like smoked CT, then I flashed over, and then flashed over again, right? and then maybe shot a bit, there's going to be some sort... How did I fuck that up? Am I stupid? Hello? Hello? This is not a utility day, boys. I'm going to be honest. All right? But so there's going to be some sort of counter utility coming out from the CTs, whether it's a molly towards ramp, whether it's a smoke palace, all right? Whatever it is, they're going to throw something, and that's baiting out utility because you don't actually plan on going out with this utility, all right? You don't actually, like, want to die with this, right? You're just throwing it to bait some stuff out. So passive defaults work well if your team is good at that. And then coming back and grouping together on a site, let's say you want to group up B and execute B, right? So you can throw some B utility. And the good thing is that the CTs, hypothetically, shouldn't have utility left over to like molly you off in apps or slow down your push. It should just be an easy aim duel for you on site. Now, the problem with that is that if you do go into the execute or your team is not good at baiting out the utility, you go into the execute and you get absolutely shut down, or you run out of time because, you know, they smoke you off. Some guys have smoke left over. They smoke off a ramp and you're trying to execute A. Pretty hard to come out like that, all right? So you could easily run out of time with that. Now for aggressive defaults, you probably want to keep the same 1-3-1 setup. You don't want to go for a 5-man default where it's like one guy palace, one guy ramp, blah, 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 all right? You want to go for the 1-3-1, so 1A, 3 mid, 1B. And same thing's pretty much going to happen for the A player, all right? He might even drop down into ramp a little bit and try to get close just in case maybe they're pushing, or maybe your mid players call, hey, the con guy's peeking, and then he knows he has a one-on-one on site with the CT player, all right, and then the B guy, same thing goes for him, right? He can go underpass real quick with like a flashbang. He can hear if cat guy's pushing up. He could try to get into kitchen fast and maybe take this fight if the guy pushes up here or something. So, you know, a little bit more flexibility with actually pushing. But then when it comes to mid, all right, personally, the defaults that I run, you have your window smoke, you have a cat smoke. All right, so that's 2 of your mid players throwing that. Then the third mid player who didn't throw either of those, right? He's going to come up here. He's going to molly into connector. Then you can even flash into connector, right? And you can try to get up. So you don't have to worry about window. You don't have to worry about cat. And you can kind of get towards bottom mid. Now with this is very aggressive positioning. The CTs are most likely, you know, to smoke bottom con like that and try to work around it. So you do have to be careful of your cat smoke and window smoke fading. You should have one guy left with a smoke here, so he can smoke window. If you plan on going up connector on this, you can have your underpass guy come up here, who's like defaulting to B, right? He could throw a cat smoke, or if you want to go up cat, you can have the same guy, or even the guy outside a ramp, you know, throw a jungle smoke, throw a top connector smoke, something like that, right? Which will allow you to get up cat, but you really have a lot of options. And with this, you know, since you have 3 people in mid, it's likely that the CTs are gonna, you know, start to put some more presence towards mid, try to kill you. The cat guy is probably gonna run up, which then the B guy can hear and say, hey, let's try to come back B, or, you know, maybe you guys get that easy cat kill. And you go, okay, they're probably going to split up 2-2, have 2 on A, 2 on B. Let's just go up A here. Or again, you get the A player, right? It's going to be a 1-1-2 type situation. They have 2 people on B, 1 mid-ish, and then 1 on A. You can even go A on that as well. Most likely you're going to end up A. B is a little bit more difficult since you can't be bottom mid and then quickly get up cat, right? You got to run all the way back and then all the way here. So you're probably going to end A. You can also jump up on this, you know, bench, get up into jungle real quick. Gives you a lot of options. So that's a versatility in mid. And then off of that, you guys most likely aren't going to be, you know, hey, let's all group up B. Let's all group up A, right? Because you have 3 people bottom mid. So it's going to come down to splits. So what you can do, you can have your B player maybe, you think that you're going to end A here, so your B player is going to hold a little bit more passive, and then you guys get mid control, so your B player runs back towards A, then you guys can double out ramp with 3 people coming up connector, or vice versa, right? Probably something that's going to be called at the start of the round is a cat split. So if you cat run up smoke, you want to throw a window smoke with that, right? And then same kind of thing, you're going to molly into connector, flash into connector, and then you're just trying to get up cat, right? And you have 2 people in apps trying to entry out. So there's a couple different types of defaults, as I was saying. Passive versus aggressive, it really depends on your play style. And there's no right way to do it, there's no wrong way to do it. Well, all right, never mind. There are lots of wrong ways to do it, but there's no like specific right way to do it. Okay, it's what do you value? Do you value having your utility and the CTs not having utility? Do you value having map control versus the CTs having map control? Do you value having no man advantage or having the man advantage, right? And risking some guy because you're going for a pick. So there's a lot of different options for this, and this is just an overall overview of general defaults. So if you have any questions on this, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I will try to make more videos listing out, well, explaining these types of in-depth strategies. Not really too in-depth, but topical team play stuff. So yeah. Let me know if you have a specific video that you want to see. If not, I'll just make whatever I want to make. So thank you all for watching. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.